Welcome to Sports Live Media on YouTube. It's you guys, Sports Live, with a political sports update. Today, April 5th, 2026. President Trump, on April 3rd of 2026, did another executive order regarding sports in general. So I am going to read this now. This video may be longer than usual, but it's worth reading. So anyway, urgent national action to save college sports. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. America's system of college sports has long provided scholarships and life-changing educational, athletic, and leadership opportunities to millions of America's future leaders and formed an important part of our national fabric. In July, I signed an executive order to protect college sports from endless lawsuits and destabilizing financial obligations that could jeopardize women's and Olympic sports, but it has become clear that more comprehensive executive action is required before college sports are lost forever. College football is the primary revenue generator for university athletic departments, including revenue to support women's and Olympic sports, and is used by many universities to attract students, donations, and goodwill as millions of Americans gather with families and friends to watch each Saturday. These factors place enormous pressure on many universities to be competitive in football. The same dynamic exists for basketball to a lesser degree. Amid this pressure, the rules governing pay for play, eligibility, and other aspects of college athletics have been substantially loosened through a number of judicial rulings. Additional rules that could institute order and consistency in these systems have been nullified by some state legislatures that are incentivized to advantage their own states' universities in the competitive market for student athletes by minimizing barriers to recruitment. This chaotic state of affairs has undermined competition, reduced opportunities for student athletes, and jeopardized support for the current range of college athletics, particularly women's and Olympic sports. Fair competition cannot occur without a consistent set of rules concerning pay for play or player eligibility that cannot be endlessly relitigated in court. The convergence of enormous pressure to win in football and basketball, and the loosening both by litigation and by state legislation of consistent rules or limits concerning eligibility, transfers, and pay-for-play schemes has created an out-of-control financial arms race in these sports that is driving universities into debt, threatening to siphon resources from other sports, and damaging student athletes' educational and graduation opportunities. The athletics-related financial threats these crucial universities face are substantial. Already one major athletic program closed fiscal year 2025 with $535 million in athletics-related debt, and another has $437 million in such debt, while others face enormous annual athletics-related deficits. These financial perils will inevitably siphon funds from universities' educational and research purposes, which could impact their capabilities and responsibilities as federal contractors and grantees. Absent a comprehensive national solution, therefore, the escalating financial demands to succeed in football and basketball, combined with the significantly loosened rules governing eligibility, transfers, and pay-for-play schemes, may force curtailment of women's and Olympic sports, and may even jeopardize the overall financial well-being of universities with which the federal government has important financial relationships. Universities are important defense research contractors for the Department of War, important medical research contractors for the Department of Health and Human Services, and important scientific research contractors for the National Science Foundation. The health of the university system is integral to the federal government's basic functioning. Further, without a national solution to protect the future of competition and opportunity in all college sports, it is possible that the largest college football programs will be forced to seek stability through a negotiated solution that may result in withdrawal of financial and other resources from women's and Olympic sports. The Congress is strongly encouraged to expeditiously pass legislation that satisfactorily addresses these issues, but further delay is not an option given what is at stake: the 500,000 annual educational, athletic, and leadership development opportunities that provide almost $4 billion in scholarships. This executive action will preserve college sports for future generations. Section 2, Effective Date. Sections 3 through 6 of this order shall be effective on August 1st, 2026, Agencies shall immediately begin work to ensure that appropriate regulatory or policy-making measures will be in place by the effective date so that the requirements of the operative sections can be implemented as soon after the effective date as possible. Section 3, definitions for the purposes of this order. A. Improper financial activities means the following actions taken by a federally funded higher education institution, including its officers, agents, affiliates, or representatives. Little I. Intentionally devising or participating in a fraudulent name, image, and likeness or NIL scheme. Little I-2. Knowing, accepting contributions, financial or otherwise, from persons who intentionally devise or participate in a fraudulent NIL scheme. 3I, little, using federal funds for NIL or revenue-sharing payments of any type of payment or benefit to a coach, assistant coach, general manager, recruiter, or other person engaged in coaching or managing an athletic team. And IV, small letters, tortiously interfering with a contract between a student athlete and another federally funded higher education institution, including a scholarship agreement. Little b, fraudulent NIL scheme means a scheme to pay for goods or services, including NIL services, above the actual fair market value of those goods and services in connection with the student athlete's participation in intercollegiate athletics, including through the use of collectives or similar entities. The term does not include little I, revenue sharing between a higher education institution and a student athlete that is consistent with interstate intercollegiate athletic governing body rules, or little I-2, fair market value compensation provided for the NIL rights of a student athlete by a third party not affiliated with the athletic department of a higher education institution for a valid business purpose that is related to the promotion or endorsement of goods or services provided to the general public for profit, and that is not tied to participation in the athletics program of a particular higher education institution at rates and terms commensurate with compensation paid to individuals with NIL rights or comparable value who are not student athletes at the applicable higher education institution. Little c, higher education institution has the meaning given the term institution of higher education in Section 1 of the Higher Education Act of 1965, 20 U.S.C. 1001, provided that this term only includes an institution that reports as required under 485 parentheses G of the Higher Education Act of 1965, again 20 U.S.C. 1092, parentheses and emphasized G, having generated not less than $20 million in total revenue as adjusted on July 1st each year by the percentage increase, if any, during the preceding 12-month period. And the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, derived by the institution from the institution's intercollegiate athletics activities during the preceding academic year, as determined in accordance with paragraph parentheses 1, parentheses capital I of Section 485, parentheses G of the Higher Education Act of 1965, 20 U.S.C. 1092, parentheses and emphasis G, and little letter D. Interstate Intercollegiate Athletic Governing Body means the entity that sets common rules, standards, procedures, or guidelines for the administration and regulation of varsity sports teams and intercollegiate athletic competitions, but that is not an intercollegiate athletic conference, provided that the governing body may include persons affiliated with the intercollegiate athletic conference. Section 4, protecting women's and Olympic sports and preserving higher education financial responsibility. Little a, little I. Agency heads that contract with or provides grants to higher education institutions shall, as appropriate, evaluate violations of the applicable, lawful, and operative interstate intercollegiate athletic governing body rules in effect as of August 1st, 2026, concerning the following: to determine whether they are a cause so serious or compelling in nature to affect the present responsibility of the recipient. Capital A, eligibility limits. Capital B, transfers between institutions. Capital C, revenue sharing permitted between higher education institutions and student athletes. And capital D, permissible and improper financial activities. Lower I, 2 of them. The director of the Office of Management and Budget, in consultation with the Administration of General Services, shall issue guidance to contracting and grant-making agencies to ensure compliance with this order and to reinforce the suspension and debarment policy regarding violations of the rules described in subsection 4, parentheses A, parentheses lowercase I of this section. Lowercase b, the Interstate Intercollegiate Athletic Governing Body for Higher Education institutions should, in consultation with the student athletes and its discretion, update or clarify its rules before August 1st, 2026 as appropriate to adequately protect opportunities for scholarships and collegiate athletic competition in women's and Olympic sports and ensure the financial stability of higher education institutions, including by establishing the following to the extent permitted by law and applicable court orders. Lowercase I, age-based eligibility limits to promote fairness, consistency, safety, and opportunities for student athletes under which, capital A, participation in college athletics is permitted for no more than a 5-year period with limited exceptions for military service, missionary service, and other periods of absence for participation that are in the public interest. And capital B, professional athletes cannot return to college athletics. Lowercase I2, transfer-related rules that, capital A, provide for the eligibility to transfer one time during the 5-year period with immediate playing eligibility, and one additional such time if the student-athlete obtains a 4-year degree. Capital B, prioritize these academic development, success, graduation, and long-term well-being of student-athletes, and capital C, ensuring that the transfer window does not incentivize interference with athletic seasons or the academic year, or otherwise undermine the integrity of participation and competition in college athletics. Lowercase I 3 times. Medical care for student athletes for intercollegiate athletics related injuries during their period of enrollment and for a reasonable period of time thereafter. Lowercase IV. The implementation of revenue sharing between higher education institutions and student athletes in a manner that preserves or expands scholarships and collegiate athletic opportunities in women's and Olympic sports, including through provisions to prevent revenue sharing from being allocated in a manner that results in a reduction in scholarships and opportunities in women's and Olympic sports. Lowercase v, a prohibition on the use of federal funds by higher education institutions for NIL or revenue sharing payments or coaching or athletic compensation in accordance with any applicable federal law and federal contract terms. Lowercase vi, a prohibition on improper financial activities regarding student athletes, including collectives or other entities or methods used to facilitate third-party pay-for-play requirements and payments, and VII, lowercase, a National Student Athlete Agency registry and reasonable protections for student athletes from excessive agent commissions. Lowercase c, to aid contracting and grant-making agencies' compliance with subsection 4, parentheses A of this section, the Administrator of General Services shall propose, consistent with law, an appropriate regular collection of information to evaluate compliance with the rules covered by subsection parentheses A, parentheses lowercase I, capital A, parentheses through capital D, parentheses, of this section for completion by appropriate higher education institution officials. Lowercase d, the Secretary of Education shall consider taking appropriate action, including through rulemaking where necessary, to require regular reporting by higher education institutions that include lowercase I, the total number of roster spots by a varsity team as of the day of the first scheduled contest for the team, and lowercase I2, the total amount of money spent on athletically related student aid or other payments separately for men and women's teams overall. Lowercase e, parentheses, the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission shall take appropriate action to enforce 15 U.S.C. 45 and 15 U.S.C. 7801 through 7807 with respect to violations by student-athlete agents and related individuals or entities. Section 5, legal actions to invalidate certain state laws. Lowercase a, the Attorney General shall take appropriate measures to further meritorious actions to invalidate state laws that conflict with interstate intercollegiate athletic governing body rules, and lowercase I, discriminate out-of-state commerce or unduly burden or impede interstate commerce in violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the Constitution of the United States. Lowercase I2, impair a contractual relationship in violation of Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the Constitution of the United States, or lowercase I3, or otherwise invalid under federal law. Section 6, consultation Relevant White House components and executive departments and agencies are encouraged to, as appropriate and consistent with the applicable law, consider input from appropriate leaders in collegiate athletics and administration and other experts regarding effective implementation of this order. Section 7. Severability. If any provision of this order or the application of any provision to any person or circumstance is held to be invalid, the remainder of this order and the application of its provisions to any other persons or circumstances shall not be affected thereby. Section 8. General provisions. A, parentheses, lowercase. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect, lowercase I, the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or lowercase I2, the functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B, this order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. C, this order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employed, or agents, or any other person. D, the cost of publication of this order shall be borne by the Department of Education. Donald J. Trump, the White House, April 3rd, 2026. So there you have it, the newest executive order regarding college sports signed by the President of the United States that took place April 3rd, 2026. And with that, thank you for taking the time to hear this on Sports Live Media. If you will, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and please hit the notification bell so you can be made aware of when I'm going over sports executive orders, when I have sports action videos, when I have sports education videos, when I broadcast live, or when I have breaking news in the sports world. Thanks and have a wonderful day.